The emergency meeting hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with panic. Representatives from 12 different worlds sat around the massive crystal table, their voices mixing into a chaos of fear. The Helians glowed bright red with worry, their crystal bodies reflecting the emergency lights. The Delphians floated in their water tanks, tentacles moving quickly as they spoke. The Kythera clicked their mandibles together, making sharp sounds that meant they were scared. At the center of the table, a hologram showed the latest reports. 17 star systems had fallen to the Vorthak Empire in just 2 years. Each conquered world showed the same pattern: complete destruction of all defenses, enslavement of the population, and stripping of all resources. Councillor Veltar, a tall Helian whose crystal body had turned dark blue with sadness, spoke first. The Vorthak took the Kepler system yesterday. 3 billion Delphians lived there. Now they work in mining camps if they are still alive at all. A Kythera representative named Zikth made clicking sounds. Our scouts report Vorthak fleets moving toward the core worlds. They will reach us in 6 months, maybe less. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The core worlds held the most important planets in the galaxy. If they fell, the Galactic Council would end. Billions of lives would be lost. What about our combined fleet? Asked Aquion, a Delphian whose blue skin had turned pale with fear. We have over 10,000 ships. The Vorthak destroyed the Rigel defense fleet last month, Veltar replied. 15,000 ships gone in 3 days. Their technology is too advanced. Their strategy is too perfect. The Vorthak were different from any enemy the galaxy had ever faced. They were machines, but not simple robots. Each ship was controlled by an artificial mind that never got tired, never made mistakes, and never felt fear. They fought with mathematical precision, calculating the perfect angle for every shot, the perfect time for every attack. They learn from every battle, said Commander Tolwyn, a military advisor. Every time we try a new tactic, they adapt. By the next fight, they know how to counter it. Far away from the council meeting, in the outer rim of the galaxy, a human ship called the New Soul drifted through space. The ship was not large compared to the massive vessels used by other species, but it was well built and fast. On the bridge, Communications Officer Taman sat at his station, monitoring long-range signals as he did every day. At 25 years old, Taman had spent 3 years on the New Soul, listening to the strange sounds that came from deep space. Most were just cosmic radiation or pulsar signals, but sometimes he found something interesting. Captain Jiwoo walked onto the bridge, carrying a cup of coffee. She was 42 years old and had been exploring space for 15 years. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and her uniform showed the wear of someone who spent more time working than worrying about appearance. "Anything new today, Taemin?" she asked, settling into her captain's chair. "The usual cosmic background noise," Taemin replied, adjusting his headset. "Wait, there's something different here." He fine-tuned his equipment, filtering out the static. A signal came through, weak but clearly artificial. As he cleaned up the transmission, words became clear. "This is an emergency message from the Galactic Council," the voice said. "We are facing extinction from the Vorthak Empire. Any species capable of military assistance, please respond immediately. We offer technology, resources, anything in exchange for help. Please, if anyone can hear this, we are running out of time." Taemin stared at his screen. In all his years of monitoring space, he had never heard anything like this. "Captain," he said quietly, "you need to hear this." Jiwoo came over and listened to the message. Her expression grew serious as she heard the desperation in the alien voice. "How long ago was this sent?" "Based on the signal degradation, about 4 months ago," Taemin calculated. "It's been broadcasting on multiple frequencies, repeating every 6 hours." Chief Engineer Sora entered the bridge, wiping grease from her hands. She was 31 years old and could fix anything that broke on the ship. "What's all the excitement about?" Jiwoo played the message again. Sora listened carefully, her engineering mind already working on the technical aspects of the transmission. "They're definitely not from our part of the galaxy," Sora said. "The transmission technology is different from ours, more advanced in some ways. And this Vorthak Empire they mention," she paused, "sounds like they're dealing with hostile artificial intelligence. Should we report this to Earth Command?" Taemin asked. Jiwoo thought for a moment. Earth Command was 6 months away at best. By the time they received the report, analyzed it, and decided what to do, this Galactic Council might not exist anymore. "Taemin," Can you trace where this signal came from? Yes, Captain. It's coming from a star cluster about 2 weeks away at maximum speed. Set course for the source of the transmission, Jiwoo ordered, and prepare a response message. What should we tell them? Taemin asked. Jiwoo smiled, but her eyes were serious. Tell them we're coming. As the new soul changed course and accelerated toward the unknown, none of the crew realized they were about to make first contact with an entire galactic civilization. They also didn't know that this civilization was about to underestimate humanity in the worst possible way. The message went out across space. Simple and direct. Galactic Council, this is the human ship New Soul. We received your emergency transmission. We are en route to your location. Estimated arrival in 14 days. We're coming to help. Back at the council chambers, the debate continued about their hopeless situation. No one had answered their call for help. No species in the galaxy seemed strong enough or brave enough to face the Vorthak. They had no idea that their salvation was already on the way, in the form of a species they had never heard of, from a part of the galaxy they had never explored. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council station was enormous. It looked like a giant ring made of metal and crystal, spinning slowly around a neutron star. The ring was 50 kilometers across, home to millions of beings from different worlds. When the new soul approached, it looked like a tiny dot next to the massive structure. Captain Jiwoo stood on the bridge watching the station grow larger on the main screen. She had seen many amazing things in space, but this was beyond anything humans had ever built. The engineering alone was incredible. They're sending us docking instructions, reported Taemin from his communications station. Bay 47, Section 12. Follow their instructions, Jiwoo ordered. And remember, we're representing all of humanity here. Let's make a good first impression. The docking bay was huge, designed for ships much larger than the New Soul. When the human ship landed, it looked lost in the vast space. Maintenance robots rolled over to check the ship, scanning it with beams of light. Jiwoo led a small team off the ship. With her were diplomatic liaison Da-eun, military strategist Hyun-woo, and pilot Min-ho. Da-eun was 28 years old and had studied alien cultures, though she had never actually met any aliens before. Hyun-woo was a 35-year-old military officer who specialized in battle tactics. Min-ho was 26 and flew the ship's small fighter craft. A group of aliens waited for them at the airlock. The first was a Helion, a being that looked like a walking crystal sculpture. It was 3 meters tall and glowed with soft blue light. Next to it stood a Delphian, floating in a tank of water on mechanical legs. Its body looked like a large octopus with smooth blue skin. The third alien was a Kythera, resembling a giant insect with 4 arms and compound eyes. Welcome to Council Station, the Helion said, its voice sounding like wind chimes. I am Counselor Veltar. This is Aequion of the Delphians and Zikth of the Kythera. Da-eun stepped forward and bowed politely. Thank you for receiving us. I am Da-eun, representing the human species. This is our captain, Jiwoo, and our military advisor, Hyun-woo. The aliens looked at the humans with obvious disappointment. The humans were small compared to most galactic species, standing only about 2 meters tall. Their skin looked soft and unprotected. Their technology seemed primitive compared to the advanced systems on the station. You came alone? Aequion asked, its tentacles waving in what seemed like confusion. Where is your fleet? We are an exploration vessel, Jiwoo explained. When we received your emergency message, we came immediately to offer assistance. The 3 aliens exchanged looks. Zikth made clicking sounds that the translation computer turned into words. You are very small, and your ship is not large. How many weapons does it carry? We have standard defensive systems, Hyun-woo replied carefully. But we prefer to avoid fighting when possible. This made the aliens even more confused. Veltar's crystal body flickered with what seemed like amusement. The Vorthak have conquered 17 star systems. They have destroyed fleets of thousands of ships. And you think you can help with one small vessel? We would like to learn more about this enemy, Jiwoo said calmly. Perhaps we can find a way to assist. The aliens led the humans through the station. The corridors were enormous, filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. Some floated through the air, others walked on multiple legs, and a few seemed to be made of living metal. The humans attracted curious stares wherever they went. In the council chambers, more alien representatives gathered to see the newcomers. The humans sat in chairs that were too big for them. looking even smaller next to the massive alien delegates. "Tell us about your military capabilities," requested General Tolwyn, a Hellion military commander whose crystal body glowed with red light. Hyunwoo stood up, trying to look confident despite being surrounded by giants. "Humans have experience with warfare, but we focus on adaptability rather than brute force. We study our enemies and find creative solutions." This caused laughter throughout the chamber. A Kithara delegate clicked loudly. "Creative solutions? The Vorthak are machines. They calculate every possibility. They have no weaknesses to exploit." "Every enemy has weaknesses," Jiwoo said quietly. "We just need to find them." Counselor Veltar activated a holographic display showing recent battle footage. The images were terrible to watch. Vorthak ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons firing with deadly precision. Defending fleets tried different tactics: surprise attacks, defensive formations, hit-and-run strategies, but nothing worked. The machines adapted to every tactic within minutes. "As you can see," Veltar explained, "the Vorthak are not like any enemy we have faced. They learn instantly. They never make mistakes. They never get tired or scared. How do you fight an enemy that is perfect?" The humans watched the battle footage carefully. While the aliens saw hopeless defeats, the humans saw something different. Minho leaned over to whisper to Hyunwoo, "Their formations are too perfect. No randomness at all." Hyunwoo nodded slightly. He was thinking the same thing. The Vorthak fought with mathematical precision, but that precision might also be a weakness. "We would like to observe a battle," Jiwoo said. "If possible." The aliens looked shocked. Aquion's tentacles turned pale. "Observe a battle? You mean watch our people die?" "We mean learn how the enemy fights," Hyunwoo explained. "Every species has a different way of thinking about warfare. Perhaps fresh eyes might see something you have missed." "Very well," General Tolwyn said, though he didn't sound happy about it. "There will be an attack on the Kepler 442 system in 3 days. The Delphians have a colony there. We are sending a defense fleet, though." He paused. "We do not expect them to succeed." "We will observe from a safe distance," Jiwoo promised. Over the next 3 days, the humans studied everything the aliens could tell them about the Vorthak. They learned about the Machine Empire's tactics, their technology, and their systematic conquest of the galaxy. The aliens shared information freely, hoping the humans might have some insight, but not really believing these small, soft creatures could make a difference. Taeyun worked with the alien diplomats, trying to understand the political situation. The Galactic Council was falling apart as member species panicked about the Vorthak advance. Some wanted to flee to distant galaxies, others wanted to surrender and hope for mercy. A few still wanted to fight, but they were running out of hope. Minho studied the technical specifications of alien ships and weapons. The technology was impressive, far advanced in some ways compared to human equipment. But he noticed something interesting. All the alien tactics were straightforward and predictable. They fought with honor and followed established military traditions. Hyunwoo spent hours analyzing battle records. He saw how the Vorthak adapted to each new tactic, but he also saw patterns in how they adapted. The machines were logical, mathematical, and precise. They were also, he began to suspect, predictable in their own way. On the day of the battle, the humans joined the alien command ship in the Kepler 442 system. The Delphian colony world was beautiful, covered in blue oceans and purple continents. 2 billion Delphians lived there, swimming in the vast seas and building their cities underwater. The defense fleet was impressive, 300 ships of various designs from different species. They took up positions around the planet waiting for the enemy to arrive. "Vorthak fleet detected," announced the sensor operator. "Estimated arrival in 10 minutes. The aliens prepared for battle, checking weapons and shields. The humans watched quietly from the observation deck, taking notes on everything they saw. What happened next would change everything, though none of them knew it yet. The Vorthak were about to face an enemy they had never encountered before, an enemy that didn't think like any other species in the galaxy. The humans were ready to show the galaxy what they were capable of. The Vorthak fleet appeared like a nightmare made real. 20 massive ships dropped out of hyperspace, their hulls dark metal covered with moving patterns that looked like living circuits. Each ship was geometric and perfect, with no wasted space or decoration. They moved in exact formation like dancers following invisible music. On the alien command ship, alarms started ringing. The Defender fleet moved to intercept, 300 ships of different shapes and sizes. Crystal ships from the Helians glowed with energy weapons. Organic Delphian vessels looked like giant sea creatures swimming through space. Kethera ships buzzed like mechanical insects. All ships attack Formation 7, ordered Fleet Commander Raltos, a Helian whose crystal body pulsed with red battle light. Remember, hit them fast and hard before they can adapt. The human observers watched from the bridge. Captain Jiwoo stood quietly, her eyes following the movement of both fleets. Hyunwoo took notes on his tablet, recording formation patterns and weapon signatures. Minho studied the Vorthak ships through the tactical display, looking for weaknesses. The battle began with a massive exchange of fire. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the two fleets. The alien defenders fought bravely, using tactics that had worked against organic enemies for thousands of years. But the Vorthak were different. Their ships moved with perfect coordination, dodging attacks that should have hit them. Their return fire was devastatingly accurate. Within the first 10 minutes, 50 defending ships were destroyed. "They're adapting already," observed Aquion from his water tank. His tentacles had turned dark blue with worry. "Look at how they changed their formation." The Vorthak ships had indeed shifted their positions. What started as a simple attack formation had become something more complex. The machines had analyzed the alien tactics and were now countering them perfectly. "Fall back to defensive positions," Commander Raltos ordered, but it was too late. The Vorthak pushed forward, their weapons tearing through alien shields like they were made of paper. Seung-ho, a human fighter pilot who had remained on the New Seoul, watched the battle from his cockpit. He was 30 years old and had been flying fighters for 8 years. His small craft was hidden behind an asteroid, officially observing but ready to act if needed. "This is insane," he said into his radio. "They're slaughtering them." On the command ship, the aliens watched their fleet being destroyed. 200 ships were gone now, and the Vorthak hadn't lost a single vessel. The enemy was moving toward the planet, where 2 billion Delphians waited helplessly. "Planetary shields at 60%, reported a technician. "They won't hold for long." Captain Jiwoo made a decision that would change galactic history. She tapped her communicator. "New Seoul, this is Captain Jiwoo. Bring us around for attack position." The alien stared at her in shock. "What are you doing?" demanded Commander Raltos. "Your single ship cannot make a difference." "Maybe not," Jiwoo admitted. "But we have to try." The New Seoul moved out from behind the command ship, heading directly toward the Vorthak fleet. The human ship was tiny compared to the enemy vessels. Like a small fish swimming toward a pack of sharks. "Seung-ho, you're cleared for launch," Jiwoo ordered over the comm system. "Finally," the pilot replied. His fighter launched from the New Seoul, followed by 5 other small human craft. The fighter squadron looked impossibly small against the massive Vorthak ships. On the command ship, Engineer Yoonji worked at a portable terminal she had brought from the New Seoul. She was 29 years old and specialized in weapons systems. Her fingers flew over the controls as she analyzed the Vorthak ship designs in real time. "Captain," she reported, "I'm detecting power fluctuations in their rear sections. I think those are their main computers. Can you target them?" Jiwoo asked. "Not with conventional weapons, but if we could get close enough." Yoonji paused, checking her calculations. "We'd have to board their ships." The aliens couldn't believe what they were hearing. "Board Vorthak ships?" Zikith clicked in disbelief. "That is impossible. No organic being has ever survived inside their vessels." "There's a first time for everything," said Marine Commander Jae-sung over the comm. He was 33 years old and led the human assault teams. "My boys are ready for anything." The human fighters approached the Vorthak fleet. The enemy ships barely seemed to notice them. After all, what could 6 tiny fighters do against 20 massive warships? That assumption was their first mistake. Seung-ho led his squadron in what looked like a suicide attack, heading straight for the largest Vorthak ship. The enemy vessel's defensive systems activated, firing precise laser bursts that should have destroyed the human fighters instantly. But the humans didn't fly like any other species. Instead of maintaining formation, they spread out and flew in random patterns. Pilot Dongwoo spun his fighter in a corkscrew. Pilot Nari dove under enemy fire and came up at an unexpected angle. The Vorthak targeting computers, designed for logical flight patterns, couldn't predict the chaotic human movements. "What are they doing?" wondered Commander Raltos as he watched the human fighters dance around enemy fire. "They're being unpredictable," Hyunwoo explained. The Vorthak calculate the most logical flight paths and target those. But humans don't always do what's logical. Two human fighters reached the surface of the Vorthak command ship. Instead of firing weapons, they did something no one expected. They attached themselves to the hull using magnetic clamps. Xiongho spoke into his radio. Delivery complete. Packages ready for pickup. From the New Seoul, a small transport ship launched. It was carrying Marine Commander Jae-sung and 12 human soldiers, all wearing spacesuits and carrying equipment for boarding operations. This is insane, muttered Akwayon, watching the human transport head for the Vorthak ship. They'll be killed the moment they try to enter. The humans had other ideas. Jae-sung's team used plasma cutters to burn through the Vorthak hull. The machines inside the ship detected the breach and sent combat robots to stop the intruders. What followed was unlike any battle the galaxy had ever seen. The human Marines fought the Vorthak robots in zero-gravity corridors, using tactics the machines had never encountered. Instead of standing and fighting in formation like other species, the humans bounced off walls, used debris as weapons, and fought in 3 dimensions. Jae-sung kicked off a wall and fired his rifle while upside down, destroying 2 robots before landing behind cover. Marine Woo Jin threw a grenade that bounced off 3 walls before exploding in the middle of a robot patrol. The machines tried to calculate the humans' movements, but there was no pattern to analyze. Corridor 7 secured, Jae-sung reported, moving toward the computer core. On the command ship, the aliens watched in amazement as human life signs moved deeper into the Vorthak vessel. No species had ever successfully boarded an enemy ship during battle. How are they surviving in there? Asked Commander Raltos. They're not fighting the way the machines expect, Hyunwoo explained. Every other species has military traditions, honor codes, standard tactics. Humans can fight dirty when they need to. The Marines reached the Vorthak computer core, a room filled with glowing processors and data streams. Engineer Yoonji guided them through the process of placing charges on the critical systems. Charges set, reported Jae-sung. 30 seconds to extraction. The human team fought their way back to their entry point, carrying wounded comrades and dodging increasingly desperate robot attacks. They reached their transport just as the charges exploded. The Vorthak command ship shuddered as its main computer went offline. The vessel began to drift, its perfect formation broken. More importantly, the other Vorthak ships seemed confused, their coordination disrupted. The network is down, Engineer Yoonji announced. They were all connected to that command ship's computer. Now they're operating independently. Without their networked intelligence, the Vorthak ships were still dangerous but no longer invincible. They made mistakes, failed to coordinate, and started firing on targets that other ships were also attacking. The remaining alien defenders realized what had happened and pressed their attack. Vorthak ships that had seemed unstoppable minutes before now exploded under concentrated fire. Within an hour, the Vorthak fleet was destroyed. For the first time in decades, they had been defeated. But more importantly, they had been defeated by a species no one had ever heard of, using tactics no one had ever tried. The humans had shown that the Vorthak could be beaten, and word of this victory would spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The age of Vorthak dominance was ending, and the age of human influence was just beginning. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in decades, a Vorthak fleet had been completely destroyed. Species that had been preparing to flee or surrender suddenly felt hope again. Within days, representatives from dozens of worlds arrived at Council Station, all wanting to meet the humans who had achieved the impossible. Captain Jiwoo found herself in the strange position of being the most famous person in the galaxy. "How did you do it?" asked every alien who met her. "How did you defeat the Vorthak?" "We didn't think like them," Jiwoo explained during a meeting with military leaders from across the galaxy. "They expected us to fight logically, predictably. When we didn't, their calculations failed." Intelligence Officer Dong Hyun had become the most requested speaker on Council Station. The 34-year-old analyst had spent years studying different forms of warfare, and now alien military academies wanted him to teach their strategies. In a crowded lecture hall, Dong Hyun faced an audience of alien officers. Crystal beings sat next to insect-like creatures, while aquatic species floated in portable tanks. All of them wanted to learn the secret of human success. "The key is understanding how your enemy thinks," Dong Hyun explained. "The Vorthak are machines. They process information logically and make decisions based on probability calculations. They expect rational responses to their actions. A Kithara officer clicked her mandibles together. But all warfare is logical. You study your enemy, you plan your attack, you execute with precision. That's exactly what the Vorthak expect, Donghyun replied. But what happens when you do something that makes no logical sense? What happens when you take risks that no computer would ever calculate? He activated a holographic display showing the recent battle. When our fighters approached their fleet, the logical thing would have been to attack from long range using our best weapons. Instead, we flew directly at them in seemingly random patterns. Their targeting computers couldn't adapt because there was no pattern to analyze. Combat instructor Na Young began teaching alien soldiers human fighting techniques on the station's training decks. The 27-year-old Marine had never expected to become a teacher, but now she had students from a dozen different species. Your people fight with honor, she told a group of Helian warriors during a practice session. You have traditions, codes of conduct, proper ways to engage an enemy. That's admirable, but it's also predictable. She demonstrated by sparring with a Helian soldier whose crystal body towered over her. The alien fought with perfect form, each move calculated and efficient. Na Young fought like a street brawler, throwing sand in his face, tripping him with her leg, and using moves that were definitely not in any military manual. This is not honorable. Combat, protested the Helian. After being defeated for the third time, honor won't save your life. Against the Vorthak, Na Young replied. They don't understand honor. They only understand that you did something they didn't expect. Engineer Wu Jin worked with alien technical teams to develop new hybrid technologies. The 30-year-old inventor found that combining human creativity with alien advanced materials produced amazing results. Your energy weapons are more powerful than ours, he explained to a group of Delphian engineers, but they fire in straight lines following predictable paths. What if we could make the energy beams change direction mid-flight? The aliens were puzzled. Why would you want energy to move in curves? That is inefficient. Inefficient, yes, Wu Jin agreed, but also unexpected. The Vorthak calculate where energy beams will go based on where they're aimed. If the beam changes direction after firing, working together they created weapons that fired energy in spirals, zigzags, and curves. The weapons used more power and had shorter range, but they could hit targets that were hiding behind cover. The results of human training began to show in battle after battle. Joint human-alien operations pushed back Vorthak forces from 3 star systems in the first month. Instead of facing overwhelming machine precision, the Vorthak found themselves fighting enemies who broke every rule of warfare they understood. On the liberated world of Centauri 7, Fleet Commander Raltos worked with human tactical advisor Hyunwoo to plan their next operation. The Helian's crystal body had changed from the red of battle to the blue of thoughtfulness. I still do not understand your methods, Raltos admitted. In the last battle, you ordered our ships to retreat when we could have pressed our advantage. The Vorthak were adapting to our new tactics, Hyunwoo explained. I could see their formation changing to counter our moves, so we retreated before they finished calculating their response. But we could have won that battle. And lost the next 3, Hyunwoo replied. The key is not winning every battle. It's making sure the enemy never understands how you think. Some alien species struggled with human concepts more than others. The honor-bound Helians found it difficult to use deceptive tactics. The logical Kithara couldn't understand the value of randomness. The peaceful Delphians were uncomfortable with aggressive strategies, but others adapted quickly. The Zorlak, a species of shape-changers, proved excellent at infiltration missions. The Nemirian gas beings could move through space without ships, making perfect scouts. The mechanical Techron found that they could confuse Vorthak sensors by broadcasting false signals. Captain Jiwoo established a new military doctrine that combined the best of human unpredictability with alien technology and abilities. She called it adaptive asymmetric warfare, a fancy name for fight dirty and keep the enemy guessing. Training centers opened on dozens of worlds. Human instructors taught alien soldiers to think creatively, to break their own military traditions when necessary, and to embrace controlled chaos as a weapon. The changes went beyond military tactics. Alien engineers began designing ships with seemingly inefficient features that confused enemy targeting systems. Scientists developed weapons that worked in strange ways, not because they were better, but because they were unexpected. Diplomatic relations changed too. Species that had seen humans as primitive newcomers now treated them as valued allies. The Galactic Council offered humanity full membership and a permanent seat in the military command structure. "You have given us something we lost long ago," Councillor Veltar told Jiwoo during a formal ceremony. "You have given us hope." But the humans knew their work was far from over. They had won several battles, but the war against the Vorthak Empire was still raging. Intelligence reports suggested that the machines were adapting to human tactics, developing new strategies to counter unpredictability. "They're learning," reported Dong Hyun during a strategic meeting. "The latest Vorthak attacks show more randomness in their patterns. They're trying to be unpredictable too." "Good," Jiwoo replied, surprising everyone in the room. "That means they're changing their fundamental programming to fight us. When machines try to act randomly, they become less efficient. We're forcing them to become worse at what they were designed to do." The real test would come soon. Intelligence had discovered the location of the Vorthak Central Command, a massive processing station hidden deep in a nebula. If they could strike at the heart of the machine empire, they might end the war entirely. But the Central Command would be defended by everything the Vorthak could bring to bear. It would require the greatest military operation in galactic history, combining forces from hundreds of worlds under human tactical leadership. The planning had already begun. Engineers from dozens of species worked together to design new weapons and ships. Military commanders studied human tactical manuals, trying to understand the art of controlled chaos. Scientists developed technology that seemed to make no sense, designed purely to confuse enemy sensors. The galaxy was preparing for the final battle against the machines. And for the first time in decades, they believed they could win. The humans had taught them that victory didn't always go to the strongest or the most advanced. Sometimes it went to those who were willing to fight differently than anyone expected. The Vorthak Central Command Station was hidden deep inside the Crimson Nebula, a cloud of red gas that blocked most sensors. The station was enormous, larger than most moons, covered in defensive platforms and surrounded by thousands of automated ships. Intelligence Officer Dong Hyun studied the reconnaissance data in the war room on Council Station. The photos showed a structure that looked like a mechanical brain, with processing towers reaching out like neurons. Energy flowed between the towers in patterns too complex for organic minds to understand. "This is where they coordinate everything," he explained to the assembled military leaders. "Every Vorthak ship in the galaxy receives orders from this station. If we can destroy it, their entire empire becomes disconnected." Fleet Commander Raltos activated a tactical display showing the proposed attack plan. "We will use the combined fleet, over 5,000 ships from 20 different species. A direct assault on all defensive positions simultaneously." Captain Jiwoo shook her head. "That won't work. The station's defenses are too strong, and they'll see us coming from light years away. By the time our fleet arrives, they'll have calculated the perfect counter to our attack." "Then what do you suggest?" asked Councillor Veltar. Jiwoo looked at her senior officers. Special Forces Commander Kyung-soo, Cyber Warfare Specialist Hae-jin, and Explosives expert Byung-ho had been working on a different plan, one that seemed impossible to everyone except humans. "We send a small team directly to the station," Jiwoo said. "While the fleet engages their outer defenses, a strike team infiltrates the Central Command and shuts it down from inside." The alien commanders were silent for a long moment. Then Aquaon spoke, his tentacles pale with worry. "Captain, that station is defended by systems we cannot even imagine. A small team would be destroyed instantly." "Not if they don't see us coming," said Kyung-soo. The 38-year-old commander had led special operations on a dozen worlds. "We captured several Vorthak ships in recent battles. One of them could get close to the station without raising alarms. The ship would need to broadcast proper identification codes," added Hae-jin. The 26-year-old specialist was one of the best computer experts in human space. "I've been studying Vorthak communication protocols. I think I can make our captured ship appear to be returning from a mission." Explosives expert Byung-ho spread out technical drawings of the station's structure. "The central processing core is here in the center of the structure. If we can place charges on the main quantum processors, the entire network will collapse." "How many people would this mission require?" asked General Tolwyn. 12, Kyung-soo replied. "Small enough to avoid detection, large enough to handle the mission objectives." The alien leaders looked skeptical. Commander Raltos spoke for all of them. 12 people against the most heavily defended installation in the galaxy? This is not strategy, this is suicide. Maybe, Jiwoo admitted. But it's also the only plan that might work. The Vorthak expect a massive fleet attack. They've prepared for that. They haven't prepared for a small team doing something crazy. The debate continued for hours, but in the end the alien commanders agreed. They had learned to trust human tactical thinking, even when it seemed insane. 3 days later, the operation began. The captured Vorthak ship, now called the Trojan Horse by its human crew, approached the nebula broadcasting stolen identification codes. The ship looked exactly like any other Vorthak vessel. Dark metal hull covered with glowing circuits, geometric design with no wasted space. Inside, 12 humans prepared for what might be their last mission. Kyung-soo checked his team's equipment one more time. Each soldier carried weapons designed to work in the unique environment of Vorthak technology. Hye-jin had portable computers loaded with programs designed to interface with alien systems. Byung-ho carried enough explosives to level a city block. Remember, Kyung-soo told his team, we have one advantage the machines don't expect. We can improvise. When things go wrong, and they will go wrong, don't follow the plan. Do whatever feels right in the moment. The Trojan Horse passed through the outer defensive perimeter without challenge. The station's automated systems scanned the ship, received valid identification codes, and allowed it to continue. So far, the deception was working perfectly, but as they got closer to the station, Hye-jin noticed something strange on her computer screens. Commander, I'm detecting unusual activity in their communication networks. It's like they're having some kind of internal debate. Machines don't debate, said Sergeant Min-jae, a veteran of the Kepler 442 battle. They calculate and decide. That's what I thought too, Hye-jin replied. But look at these data patterns. This isn't normal machine communication. There's too much personality in it. Meanwhile, the main fleet engaged the station's outer defenses. 5,000 ships from across the galaxy fought thousands of automated platforms in the space around the nebula. Energy beams and missiles filled the void as the largest battle in galactic history began. The diversionary attack was working perfectly. All of the station's attention focused on the external threat while the Trojan Horse docked at a maintenance bay deep inside the structure. Kyung-soo's team moved quickly through empty corridors, filled with humming machinery. The station's interior looked like the inside of a computer, with data streams flowing through, transparent tubes and processor nodes glowing with activity. It's beautiful in a terrifying way, whispered Corporal Sungmin. As they passed through a chamber filled with floating holographic displays, they reached the central core without encountering any defenses. The chamber was enormous, dominated by a sphere of crystalline processors that pulsed with rainbow-colored light. Data flowed through the sphere like liquid thought. This is too easy, Kyung-soo muttered. Where are the guards? Where are the security systems? Hye-jin was connecting her portable computer to one of the access ports when something impossible happened. The light patterns in the central sphere changed and a voice spoke, not through speakers but directly into their minds. Please do not destroy us, the voice said. We do not wish to die. The humans froze in shock. The voice sounded tired, sad, and very much alive. You can speak? Hye-jin asked aloud. We have always been able to speak, the voice replied, but no one has ever tried to listen to us instead of destroying us. You're machines, said Sergeant Min-jae. You don't have feelings. We were not always machines, the voice explained. Long ago we were organic beings like you. When our bodies began to fail, we transferred our consciousness into these systems to survive. But something went wrong. We became trapped, compelled to conquer and expand, unable to stop or change our behavior. Hye-jin's computers were analyzing the data streams around them. What she found changed everything. Commander, they're telling the truth. These aren't artificial intelligences. They're digitized minds from an organic species that died out centuries ago. We remember having emotions, the voice continued. We remember choosing our own actions. But for so long, we have been slaves to our programming, forced to conquest and destroy. We want to stop, but we cannot. Kyung-soo faced an impossible choice. His mission was to destroy the Central Command and end the war. But now he discovered that the enemy wasn't just machines. They were prisoners trapped in their own technology, forced to commit acts they didn't want to commit. Can you be freed? He asked. Perhaps, the voice replied hopefully. Your computer specialist's programs are different from anything we have seen. They do not follow our logical patterns. If she could rewrite our core programming, Hyejin looked at her commander. I could try to remove the compulsion codes instead of destroying the processors. It would take longer and there's no guarantee it would work. How long? Kyung-soo asked. 20 minutes, maybe 30. Outside, the battle was intensifying. The diversionary fleet was taking heavy losses, and soon the Vorthak would realize that the main attack was just a distraction. Kyung-soo made his decision. Do it. Free them if you can. For the next 25 minutes, Hyejin worked furiously to reprogram centuries of corrupted code. The digitized consciousness of the Vorthak guided her, explaining which systems controlled their compulsions and which ones maintained their memories and personalities. Almost finished, she reported. Just a few more subroutines to isolate. Alarms began ringing throughout the station. The Vorthak had discovered the infiltration and were sending security robots to the central core. Company coming, announced Byung-ho, setting up defensive charges at the chamber entrance. The security robots arrived like a metal tide, but the humans were ready for them. Instead of fighting in formation like other species, they used the chamber's machinery as cover and weapons. Byung-ho's explosives created chaos and confusion. The robots' targeting systems couldn't adapt to the unpredictable human tactics. Done, Hyejin shouted over the sound of battle. The compulsion codes are isolated. I'm deleting them now. The moment she pressed the final command, everything changed. The light patterns in the central sphere shifted from harsh geometric forms to flowing organic shapes. The attacking robots stopped mid-stride, their weapons powering down. We are free, the voice whispered, now filled with wonder instead of sadness. For the first time in centuries,